Hello, my name is Jaxen Peterson, and this is my delivery activity. So my first delivery element is volume, and it is important to speak at an appropriate volume so that the audience can hear and understand what is being said without straining to listen to you. And a positive example of using volume is using the appropriate volume level to engage the audience and make sure everyone can hear you clearly. And my negative example is speaking too loudly or too softly, making it difficult for the audience to hear or understand the message, which causes them to strain. Secondly, we have our eye contact, which is the act of looking directly at the audience while speaking. And maintaining eye contact with the audience can create a connection and show confidence, while avoiding eye contact can make the speaker seem uninterested or nervous. And a positive example, like I kind of just said, was making eye contact with a member of the audience to establish a connection and make you appear more confident. While a negative example is, like I said before again, avoiding eye contact with the audience and can make it seem uninterested or not confident in what you were speaking about. Thirdly, we have our rate, which is the pace at which a speaker delivers their speech. And a positive example of your speech, your rate would be speaking at a natural pace that is easy for the audience to follow and understand. And a negative example would be speaking too quickly or too slowly, which would make it difficult for the audience to keep up or understand what you're even saying in the first place. Fourthly, we have our pitch, which is the how high or low your voice or your volume, not volume, but the variation in the highness or lowness of your voice. And varying the pitch of one's voice can help to emphasize important points and add interest to the delivery. And a positive example would be varying the pitch of the voice to add interest and emphasis to the message. So if you have a point you really want to get across to your audience, you would emphasize that point. And a negative example would be speaking in a monotone voice, which can make the message seem dull or not as important. And then our next delivery is your facial expression, which is the movement and expressions of the face that a speaker uses while speaking. And using facial expressions can reinforce the meaning of what is being said and add emphasis. And not using facial expressions or using inappropriate facial expressions can make the delivery seem insincere or unnatural. So a positive example, like I just said, is using your facial expressions to convey your emotions and engage with your audience. And a negative example, like I also just said, is keeping a blank or uninterested expression, which can make the speaker seem detached or disinterested in what you're speaking about. Next, we have articulation and your enunciation. And it is the clear and distinct pronunciation of words while speaking, and clearly articulating words and speaking distinctly can make it easier for the audience to understand. So a positive example would be speaking clearly and precisely, make sure each word is distinct and easy to understand. And a negative example would be mumbling or speaking too quickly, making it difficult for the audience to understand the message, not completely saying the whole word. Next, we have our gestures, which is the movement of your arms, hands, and body that a speaker uses when they speak. And a positive example is using gestures would be to emphasize points and add energy to the presentation. While a negative example would be overusing gestures or not using at all, which could distract your audience or take away from your main message. Next, we have your pause and vocal fillers, which would be words like or other distinct fillers like that. Using like is a big one. A positive example would be using pauses effectively to emphasize points to create a natural rhythm. So if you really want to emphasize something you just said, I'd pause and let your audience take in what they're hearing. And your negative example would be saying like, which would make it choppy, unnatural, and take away from the message and make the speaker seem unprepared, even if you prepared a lot. Finally, we have our posture, which is the position of the body while you're speaking, and that's either standing or sitting. A positive example would be standing up straight and maintaining good posture, which conveys confidence and engagement, because nobody wants to see somebody slouch, which gets me into my negative example, which is slouching or leaning on a podium, which can make the speaker seem uninterested or disengaged. And that was my last delivery element, and thank you for your time.